This holiday season, sometimes it's nicer to be naughty. But no matter what, you're still on our list. Visit a Bravado Wireless store for the best holiday deals on the hottest phones. At Bravado Wireless, we believe in the power of connection.
Welcome into this OKPreps.com exclusive. I'm your host, Michael Knight, and it is time to announce the 10 finalists for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year presented by Bravado Wireless. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to talk about some of the best athletes in the state of Oklahoma from the 2018 football season. I can't believe I'm already saying this. I can't believe that the 2018 season has already come and gone, but that's what happens when you're talking about football. Year in and year out, it goes by faster and faster. We saw some great performances over the last 3 months. We saw state championship winning performances. We saw guys elevate their game to a whole new level. We saw record-breaking performances throughout the 2018 season. We have all of that and more over the course of the next 30 minutes or so. So what we're going to do is, up first, we're going to have a quick timeout, but then we're going to go through alphabetically our first 5 finalists for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year Award presented by Bravado Wireless. We will also take a timeout after that, and then we will go through the last 5 finalists for the OKPreps Player of the Year Award, again, presented by our friends at Bravado Wireless. We also want to send you a reminder and let you know that the poll is now open to vote for your choice for the 2018 Fans Favorite Award. Over the last several years, we've had hundreds of thousands of votes for this award as you get to decide out of the 10 finalists who you think should be the OKPreps Player of the Year. In 2 weeks from now, we will announce not only the fans' favorite, but we will also have the announcement of the staff selection for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year presented by Bravado Wireless. The winner will join candidates in the past who have won this award, including our very first winner, Mason Fine, quarterback from Locust Grove, who has gone on to have a remarkable career at the University of North Texas. In fact, he continues to rewrite the record book at North Texas, much like he did when he was at Locust Grove, rewriting the record book for quarterbacks here in the state of Oklahoma. In 2015, Lincoln Christian quarterback Michael Wilson won the award, having a great year for the Bulldogs. He went on to go to Missouri. In 2016, we stayed in Class 3A, and we stayed at the quarterback position with Jones quarterback Brandon George, who had a phenomenal season leading the Longhorns to a state championship in that season. Last year, we dropped all the way down to Class A, but when you took a look at the candidates, when you took a look at the eventual winner, you couldn't help but be impressed by what Will Amos was able to do from Afton, who led the Eagles to an undefeated season and a state championship, running for more than 3,000 yards, running for more than 40 touchdowns, in leading Afton to the gold ball. Now, what do we have on tap for this year? Well, I will say that it is not going to be as quarterback heavy as it has been in the past. In fact, 6 of the finalists are running backs or play different positions. We only have a few quarterbacks that made the field as a finalist for this year's award. So more than likely, we will see the first ever non-quarterback winning this year's OKPreps Player of the Year Award. We're going to take a quick time out, and when we come back, we will be bringing you the first 5 finalists. We'll go in alphabetical order for this year's OKPreps Player of the Year Award presented by Bravado Wireless. And we do that after this short timeout.
This holiday season, sometimes it's nicer to be naughty. But no matter what, you're still on our list. Visit a Bravado Wireless store for the best holiday deals on the hottest phones. At Bravado Wireless, we believe in the power of connection.
We welcome you back to this special OKPreps.com exclusive. I'm your host, Michael Knight, and we are announcing the 10 finalists for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year presented by Bravado Wireless. Before we get to our first finalist, I do want to send out a special thank you to our sponsor of the Player of the Year Award, as well as our weekly Player of the Week Award, Bravado Wireless. They have sponsored our football award throughout the football season, as well as awarding the Player of the Year as the presenting sponsor. They will also be with us throughout the 2018-2019 basketball season as for the first time ever, week in and week out, we will award a Player of the Week, and then at the end of March, we will award a Player of the Year in both boys and girls basketball, and that award will also be presented by Bravado Wireless. But up first, we got our finalists for the 2018 OKPreps Football Player of the Year, and our first finalist is Rejoice Christian running back and defensive back Andrew Crow. Crow led Rejoice to a 13-1 record as a senior this season, their only loss coming in the semifinals to Christian Heritage in heartbreaking fashion, but that doesn't mean that Crow didn't have a phenomenal season. He ran for over 2,600 yards and 44 touchdowns on just 259 carries. He scored a total of 48 touchdowns this season as a senior. And on the defensive side of the ball, he also had an impact. He finished with 32 tackles on the year, but he came up big when the Eagles needed him most with 7 interceptions. And the most impressive stat about what Crow was able to do this year, he did not play in the second half of the majority of the games this season as he helped Rejoice Christian make it all the way to the semifinals. Andrew Crow has been a phenomenal player throughout his career at Rejoice Christian, but he took his game to another level. Week in and week out, he was putting up big numbers, and if you paid attention to our Player of the Week award week in and week out, more times than not on Sunday, Andrew was listed as a candidate for the award after another big performance. And that's what's so impressive about what he was able to do this season when you consider the fact that he didn't play in the second half of the majority of their games this season. That also included playoff wins as he helped Rejoice make it all the way to the Class A semifinals. Andrew came into the 2018 season looking to replicate what Will Amos at Afton was able to do last year, carrying Afton to a state championship, running for more than 3,000 yards. Crow was banged up in the semifinal game as he got in a horrific car accident a couple of days before the state semifinals. He's lucky that he didn't get more seriously hurt as a drunk driver hit him on the highway coming home from football practice. We're very happy that nothing more seriously was done to Andrew, but unfortunately, he just wasn't the same in that semifinal clash against Christian Heritage. Take nothing away from Christian Heritage. They had a great season. They had a great game in the win over Rejoice Christian, but you just would have liked to see a player of the caliber of Andrew Crow at 100% in one of the biggest games of the year. Our next finalist for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year, presented by Bravado Wireless, is Metro Christian Junior quarterback Asher Link. Link threw for over 3,400 yards and 33 touchdowns on 236 of 364 passing, completing 64% of his passes. He also ran for over 600 yards and 12 touchdowns on 107 carries as Metro Christian went 12-2, losing to Beggs in the semifinals. Asher Link is the latest breakout star for Metro Christian at the quarterback position. Metro this year dropped down from Class 4A to 2A into a class in 2A football that was absolutely stacked, not only with great football teams, but great football talent when you consider two-time defending champion Millwood and all of the talent that they had returning as they went after a three-peat. The eventual state champion Sperry, their quarterback Bo Teal, had a great season. The team that beat Metro Christian in the semifinals, Beggs, had a phenomenal year with some great talent as well. But leading the way in Class 2A, when you took a look at the numbers in and week out, putting up monster numbers, especially in the playoffs and late in the regular season, when Metro Christian needed Asher Link to be at his best, he absolutely was in leading Metro Christian one game shy of the state championship. What's scary is what he is able to do as he's just now scratching the surface of what he could eventually be for this Metro Christian offense. Next year, he won't have the safety blanket of running back Ryan Johnson in the backfield as Johnson will graduate, but more of a spotlight will be put on Link, and he'll be able to answer the call next year as a senior as Metro tries to not only make it back to the semifinals, but go a step further and contend for a state championship. And with Link under center or in the shotgun or wherever Metro Christian lines him up next year, they're going to have a great shot at contending for a gold ball, led by the next great Metro Christian quarterback, We shouldn't be surprised at this point that Jared McCoy, head coach of Metro Christian, continues to put out year after year great quarterbacks. It doesn't matter what the system is. It doesn't matter what the competition is. Metro Christian year in and year out has a great quarterback, and this year is no different, as Asher Link is the latest finalist for the OKPreps Player of the Year award. Our next finalist is Heritage Hall senior running back Connor Carey. Carey was another breakout star this year for Heritage Hall as he ran for over 1,800 yards and 32 touchdowns on just 204 carries. He also had a major impact in the passing game as he had over 500 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns on just 25 receptions. Heritage Hall went 13-1 this season, winning yet another state championship, this time coming in Class 3A. The most impressive part about what Connor Carey was able to do this year was without a doubt Heritage Hall's playoff run, and more in particular, what Connor was able to do in the playoffs. Heritage Hall came into 2018 as the defending champion up in Class 4A. They won the 4A title a year ago, and they came into 2018 with all sights set on them when it came to Class 3A contenders. Everybody wanted a piece of Heritage Hall. Everybody wanted to knock off the defending champion Chargers and deny Heritage Hall their 4th state championship in the last 5 years. But Connor Carey showed why he is a finalist for this year's award as he elevated his game to a completely different level. He scored a total of 40 touchdowns this season, but 17 of those 40 touchdowns came in just 4 playoff games as Heritage Hall ran through all 4 of their playoff opponents on their way to a state championship. They scored nearly 70 points in the semifinal win over Lincoln Christian. They dominated and scored 50 in a championship game over Sulphur. In both outings, Connor Carey had a fantastic performance, as Carey was not only a breakout star, but he was without a doubt one of the best players in the state of Oklahoma. And you consider that backfield, as coming into this season, all eyes were on senior running back Billy Ross after Billy had a breakout season last year. Now, you paired up Billy and Connor in the same backfield, and you have a recipe for disaster for the rest of Class 3A. Congratulations to Connor Carey, the latest finalist for the OKPreps Player of the Year award presented by Bravado Wireless. Our next finalist for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year award is Booker T. Washington senior Dax Hill. Dax Hill is without a doubt the best football player in the state of Oklahoma when it comes to recruiting. He's the top prospect in Oklahoma's 2019 class, and he showed why, helping lead Booker T. Washington back to the semifinals this season. He finished with nearly 100 tackles. He had 2 forced fumbles and came up with 1 interception on defense, but he was a standout on offense as well, coming up with 13 catches for 360 yards and 7 touchdowns, helping Booker T. go 8-4, but they would lose to Stillwater in the 6A Division II semifinals. Booker T. Washington came into 2018 as the defending state champions. All eyes were on them as they came into 2018 not only as the defending champs, but with a lot of talent coming back, led by Dax Hill. Dax would commit to Michigan during the regular season, but here recently in the last week, he flipped his commitment from Michigan to Alabama, as he is without a doubt one of the most special prospects to come through Oklahoma during our time in covering recruiting, and a lot of people agree he's one of the more special prospects to come out of Oklahoma in the last decade. Dax is without a doubt a rare talent when you take a look at what he's able to do on the football field. Speed and aggression is the name of the game for Dax, as he's able to close on just about every single play on the football field. Now, you might be wondering, well, if he's so special, what happened to the Hornets this year? Dax Hill was able to do what he was able to do this year despite the Hornets being extremely snake-bit. There aren't very many teams in Oklahoma that had more issues with injuries this year than Booker T. Washington. The Hornets had to play without some of their star players for the majority of the 2018 season. The Hornets would make no excuses about it. They lost to Stillwater in the semifinals, but this is a Hornet program that year in and year out has some of the best players in the state, and this year is no exception with Booker T. Washington defensive back and wide receiver Dax Hill. Regardless of where he is on the football field, teams had to know where number 30 was at all time. And that is why he is the latest finalist for the OKPreps Player of the Year award. Our next finalist and our last finalist before we take a quick timeout is Holbert senior running back Jacob Bruce. Bruce had a phenomenal season in leading Holbert to a district championship and back into the Class A playoffs. He became the 12th player in state history to run for more than 3,000 yards, as he ran for over 3,200 yards and 41 touchdowns on 306 carries. He had the 6th best rushing season in state history and again became the 12th player to reach over 3,000 rushing yards in a single year. But the most impressive part about what Bruce was able to do this season was becoming the all-time leading rusher in Oklahoma high school football history. About halfway through the season, towards the second half of the season, you started to realize that Bruce had a realistic chance to break the record, as he was averaging north of 200 yards per game week in and week out. He had a chance to break the record set years ago, and he finished with over 8,500 rushing yards over the last 4 years. He ran for 2,000 yards, north of 2,000 yards as a sophomore. He ran for over 2,000 yards last year again as a junior, and then he eclipsed the 2,000-yard mark early on in the season, and he would add to that with 3,000 rushing yards this year, becoming the state's all-time leading rusher. Congratulations to Holbert running back Jacob Bruce, who was a phenomenal talent, and it's one of those deals where you put the ball in his hands, and more times than not, he was finding the end zone. Over 40 touchdowns on the season as he helped Holbert to a district championship and a couple of home playoff games in the playoffs in Class A, a Class A playoff field that was absolutely wild to follow, as Holbert would get knocked off by Commerce in the second round. But it doesn't take away from what Bruce and the Holbert Riders were able to do in 2018, and they rode into the history books this season. Congratulations to Jacob becoming Oklahoma's all-time leading rusher. And he is our last finalist before we take a quick time out. Congratulations again to Holbert running back Jacob Bruce. We're going to take a quick time out, and when we come back, we will debut the final 5, the last 5 finalists for this year's 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year, presented by Bravado Wireless. Our first 5 finalists include Rejoice Christian's Andrew Crow, Metro Christian's Asher Link, Heritage Hall's Connor Carey, Booker T. Washington's Dax Hill, and more recently, our last finalist, Mr. Running back himself, Jacob Bruce from Holbert. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, the last 5 finalists for this year's OKPreps Player of the Year award, presented by our friends at Bravado Wireless.
This holiday season, sometimes it's nicer to be naughty. But no matter what, you're still on our list. Visit a Bravado Wireless store for the best holiday deals on the hottest phones. At Bravado Wireless, we believe in the power of connection.
Welcome back to this special OKPreps presentation of the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year finalists, presented by Bravado Wireless. We already debuted the first 5 finalists, including Rejoice Christian's Andrew Crow, Metro Christian's Asher Link, Heritage Hall's Connor Carey, Booker T. Washington's Dax Hill, and Holbert's Jacob Bruce. It's time to debut the final 5 finalists for this year's OKPreps Player of the Year award, and we go back to the running back position for our next finalist, Broken Arrow running back Noah Cortez. The senior for the Tigers had a fantastic season as he became the school's all-time leading rusher, but more importantly, he helped the Tigers to a perfect 13-0 season and winning the 6A Division I state championship. Of course, that gold ball was the first state title in Broken Arrow school history, as Cortez ran for nearly 2,000 yards. He finished with over 1,900 yards and 35 touchdowns on 261 carries. He was the most valuable player for Broken Arrow, as this BA team is widely considered as the most talented team in school history. He was the most consistent player for a Broken Arrow team that week in and week out was the absolute best team in the state of Oklahoma. When you took a look at what Noah was able to do this year, you couldn't help but be impressed. You knew early on that not only Cortez was different this year, but this Broken Arrow team was different this year. Year in and year out, Broken Arrow has had talented football players. They've had talented football teams. They've made runs to state semifinals, to state championships, but never before had we seen a team put it all together and win a state championship. You knew early on in the year when they were beating teams like Union, Owasso, Jinx, even Mansfield from down in Texas, you knew that this team, within the span of about 5 weeks, beating all 4 of those teams and beating them in impressive fashion, the one consistent theme during that stretch was running back Noah Cortez. Cortez beat out Jamal Shaw, who was the school's all-time leading rusher. Now it's Noah Cortez. Cortez was a leader on and off the football field as he had a fantastic season as a football player, but he was also helping classmates out as he was named homecoming king earlier in the year. You could always see him. You talk about Coach Alexander, David Alexander, Broken Arrow's head coach. He has nothing but good things to say about his senior running back, as he would talk about how Cortez was always helping classmates out in the school, as he was not only a great football player, but a great person as well, as he helped lead this Broken Arrow team to a record 13-0 season and their first state championship in school history. It should also be noted that since the split in Class 6A, no team in 6A Division I has been able to go undefeated. You took a look at some of those Jinx teams that won early on, Union, Owasso last year. Nobody has been able to go undefeated since the split in Class 6A. That is no longer the case, as the Broken Arrow Tigers finished off a 13-0 season as Noah Cortez helped lead Broken Arrow to their first ever state championship. This was a no-brainer, as Noah Cortez was without a doubt one of the best players on the absolute best team in the state of Oklahoma. Noah Cortez, a finalist for this year's OKPreps Player of the Year Award presented by Bravado Wireless. Our next finalist for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year is Bethany Junior quarterback and defensive back Sammy Brandt. We go back to the quarterback position for our next finalist, as it's a junior who had a phenomenal season, leading Bethany to a 12-2 season. They lost in the state championship game to Tuttle. In fact, both of the Bethany losses this year came to the eventual state champion Tuttle Tigers, but you can't take away from what Sammy Brandt was able to do. He threw for over 2,600 yards and 27 touchdowns. That's on 65% passing. He also ran for over 1,200 yards and 25 touchdowns. Sammy Brandt also had 76 tackles and 7 interceptions on defense, as he became a one-man wrecking crew, helping lead Bethany back not only to the semifinals for the second straight year, but making it a step further to the state championship game. And if you took a look at what Brandt was able to accomplish in the playoffs in particular, you couldn't help but be impressed. He put up massive numbers during the regular season, but he came so important to Bethany's championship run in the playoffs. In particular, he opened up in the first round with 5 total touchdowns and 2 interceptions in their first round victory. He backed that up by Bethany going on the road to Wagner, a place that is nearly impossible to come out with a victory if you're the road team. And yet Bethany was able to do it 42-35. And we witnessed in person as Sammy Brandt would throw for 3 touchdowns. He would run for 3 touchdowns. And he also had 2 interceptions on defense, as he had an absolutely dominating performance. And when you take a look at that championship game against Tuttle, we mentioned that the only 2 losses this year for Bethany came to the Tuttle Tigers. In the regular season, Bethany only put up 7 points against Tuttle. That Tuttle defense was fantastic all year long. In the state championship game, Brandt was able to do his thing, as he was able to put some damage on that Tuttle defense, giving up 28 points to Bethany. Carson Berryhill and the Tuttle Tigers were better that night, capturing the Class 4A state championship. But when you take a look to 2019 and you take a look ahead to what's possible next season, you can't help but starting the conversation in Class 4A with what Sammy Brandt and this Bethany team can do, as they will go into 2019 as a heavy favorite to not only make it back to the state championship game, but to win it all, especially if Brandt is able to take his game to a completely new level. He already took it to highs that nobody expected this year. I want to see what he's able to do next year for an encore. Sammy Brandt, the latest finalist for the OKPreps Player of the Year award. Our next finalist, we stay in the junior class, but we go back to the running back position, as our next finalist is Edison running back Savion Morrison. Morrison helped lead Edison to a 6-5 record and back into the playoffs for the first time in a long time. In fact, the Eagles hadn't hosted a first-round playoff game in a long time, in decades, and the Eagles were able to do that, led by the performance of their star junior running back, Savion Morrison. He ran for over 2,700 yards and 35 touchdowns on just 229 carries. He finished with over 3,000 all-purpose yards on the season. And when you take a look at what he was able to do over the last 5 weeks in the regular season, it is mind-blowing. In their first 5 games, Edison went 1-4. Morrison ran for nearly 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's a nice run, but his last 5 games, holy cow. Edison goes 5-0, and Morrison runs for over 1,700 yards and 26 touchdowns. That is an unbelievable season for a lot of football players. For Morrison, he was able to do it in a little over a month. He had a fantastic season all year long. He became one of the household names across Oklahoma. Year in and year out, we see a guy have a breakout season and not only have success on the football field, but he becomes a household name when it comes to recruiting. And for the 2018 season, there probably isn't another name out there that is more hot than Savion Morrison, as he became an overnight sensation in about late September, early October. He became a guy that college coaches came to Tulsa in a hurry, trying to figure out a way to get the next big star in Tulsa Public Schools football with Savion Morrison. Morrison had a fantastic season for the Edison Eagles. He helped lead them back to the playoffs, and big things are coming for not only Morrison, but for Edison next year. As he had a phenomenal year this year, I want to know, similar to Sammy Brandt at Bethany, I want to know what Morrison has on hand for an encore next year, as he ran for over 1,000 yards last year as a sophomore, running for nearly 3,000 yards this year. What does he have on tap for 2019? He will be without a doubt one of the best players in Oklahoma in that 2020 graduating class here in the state of Oklahoma, and he will without a doubt be one of the players to watch when you look at the 2019 football season. We're going to stay at the running back position for our next finalist of the OKPreps Player of the Year award, presented by Bravado Wireless. And we go down to Class 3A, and we go to the senior class with Sulphur running back Trey Kaiser. Coming into the 2018 season, you knew that Kaiser was primed to have a great season, but you didn't know that he had this on tap, as he helped lead Sulphur to a 12-2 record and a loss to Heritage Hall in the state championship game. He ran for over 2,500 yards and 39 touchdowns on the season. He carried the ball nearly 300 times, as he became the absolute workhorse that Sulphur needed to make it to the state championship. On the defensive side of the ball, he also finished with 131 tackles and 8 sacks. And when you talk to some of the coaches down in Sulphur about Trey Kaiser, they have nothing but great things to say. He's a great young man. He's a very talented football player. And as impressive as some of those numbers on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, the kid ran for nearly 40 touchdowns this year, as Sulphur made it all the way to the state championship game, where they would lose to eventual state champion Heritage Hall. But then again, a lot of teams fell to Heritage Hall this season. Kaiser had an unbelievable season on defense, and if you ask some of the coaches down there, they think he's a better linebacker than he is a running back. But the one thing that he absolutely is, and you cannot deny, is he is a great football player. Whether it's running back, whether it's linebacker, I don't care. I'll take Trey Kaiser every single day of the week on my football team, as he had a phenomenal season leading the Bulldogs back to the state championship game. It didn't end the way that Sulphur would have liked, but when you look at the season that Kaiser had, one thing that is so impressive is the fact that he wasn't even 100% for the majority of the season. I would have loved to see what Kaiser had on tap with 100% health, but when you're carrying the ball nearly 300 times when you finish with over 131 tackles. And if you've seen Kaiser play, you know it's a physical style of football. He loves contact. He loves to hit. You're going to get banged up over the course of 3 months of high school football. But I'll tell you what, it was so impressive to see what Kaiser was able to do this season for Sulphur, leading them back to the state championship game. And he had a phenomenal season. You knew that he had the potential to have this type of year this year, but holy cow, I think he even blew out. I think he even exceeded his expectations, his coach's expectations, and certainly our expectations. Congratulations to Trey Kaiser, the recent finalist for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year Award. And our final finalist for the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year, presented by Bravado Wireless, we go back down to Class A and we go back to the quarterback position, Zach Hale. Christian Heritage quarterback Zach Hale had an unbelievable season this year, helping lead Christian Heritage on an improbable run to the Class A state championship game. Christian Heritage will go 10-5 on the year, losing to Tonkawa in the state title game. But had it not been for Hale, Christian Heritage might have missed out on the playoffs altogether. Hale threw for over 2,600 yards and 33 touchdowns. He also ran for nearly 900 yards and 11 touchdowns. And on the defensive side of the ball, he had 202 tackles, 8 interceptions, and 4 fumble recoveries. So you make the call. What was Zach more impressive as, on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball? He put up monster numbers on both sides. And when you take a look at this Christian Heritage season, they made not only their first appearance in the state semifinals, but their first appearance ever in school history in the state championship game. And coming into week 9, you didn't even know if Christian Heritage was going to be able to make the playoffs, as they were in that brutal district with teams like Crescent, with teams like Cashin, with teams like Minko, teams like Crossings Christian, that were some of the best teams in Class A. Crescent made it to the state title game a year ago. They missed out on the playoffs altogether this season. Zach Hale and Christian Heritage made it into the playoffs in win-or-go-home fashion starting in week 9. They knew that they could not afford another loss. They were 4-4 going into week 9. Another loss would kick them out of the playoffs. They would win their last 2 regular season games, and then they would play district champion after district champion, starting in the playoffs in the first round against Ringling. They would beat Ringling. They would put up 20+ against a Ringling defense that just simply does not give up 20+ points. But Zach Hale and the Crusaders were able to make school history, making it to their first ever appearance in the state championship game. Zach was phenomenal on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't know what's more impressive, his offensive numbers, his defensive numbers. I also don't know what's more impressive, the fact that Christian Heritage made it even into the playoffs, made it all the way to the state championship game, or the fact that this was Zach Hale's first year at quarterback. He had to replace one of the school's best quarterbacks in school history in Camden Cargill last year, who's now at the University of Central Oklahoma, and he did it in stunning fashion this season. When you took a look at some of those numbers that he was able to do, throwing the football, running the football, again, I don't know what he was more valuable as, an offensive asset or a defensive asset. All I know is he had a phenomenal season helping lead Christian Heritage to a school record 10-5 record all the way to the state championship game. A phenomenal year for him, a phenomenal year for the Crusaders. Congratulations to Zach Hale, the last finalist for this year's 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year Award, presented by Bravado Wireless. All right, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this OKPreps exclusive. As I said at the beginning, you can now vote for this year's fans' favorite. In a couple of weeks, we will announce the staff pick with a little trophy presentation as well to the winner of the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year Award, presented by Bravado Wireless. But you can now vote. You can vote now. You can vote in a minute. You can vote in an hour. You can vote every day, as often as you want, for this year's OKPreps fans' favorite. The last several years, we've had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of votes on this award. We want to see the same thing this year. Vote for your pick for this year's OKPreps Player of the Year Fans' Favorite Award, presented by Bravado Wireless. Again, my thanks goes out to Bravado Wireless for being a fine sponsor of this year's Player of the Year Award, as well as our Player of the Week Award throughout the 2018 football season. We also want to thank them for signing on to be our sponsor of the 2018 and 2019 Basketball Award as well. Stay tuned to OKPreps.com each weekend as we will announce 5 candidates for the Player of the Week Award for both boys and girls basketball. And then again in March, we'll be doing this again with a special OKPreps exclusive where we'll announce the finalists for the Basketball Award. My thanks goes out to Bravado Wireless for being a fine sponsor of not only OKPreps, but high school sports in Oklahoma in general. Congratulations to all 10 finalists. Stay tuned to OKPreps.com over the next several weeks as we have more postseason content from our season in review series to the All-State team, the Breakout Player of the Year, the Most Improved Player of the Year, and of course, the big award, the OKPreps Player of the Year. Who's going to join names like Mason Fine, Micah Wilson, more recently Will Amos, and etch his name in history as the absolute best player in the state of Oklahoma. As the 2018 season has come to a close, I know it's hard to fathom. It just feels like yesterday that we were opening up the 2018 season, but we saw some great performances, some championship caliber performances, some record-breaking performances, and my tip of the cap to all 10 finalists, worthy winners of the 2018 OKPreps Player of the Year Award. We'll find out that winner in just 2 weeks. Stay tuned to OKPreps.com. One final time, I'm your host, Michael Knight, and we thank you for tuning in to this OKPreps exclusive here on OKPreps.com.